Alright, this is Wrap the News, and this is most important because the spirit and something is really pushing at me to push these 3 moons right here. It's really pushing at me, and early this morning, and I believe it was before 7 o'clock, or around 7 o'clock, from 7 to 7:30, I had a dream, and this is how it went, so I'm going to just tell you how it went. I had a dream that the prophet was back from the grave. And so I'm seeing inside the dream a vision of the prophet coming out of the ground. You know, it seemed like I don't know. I'm gonna read I'm gonna read to you what I wrote down because I woke up and wrote it down. So the prophet was back from the grave. It didn't. Let me read it. The prophet was back from the grave, and we were shocked and excited and it seemed like I could see him coming out of the grave, kind of like in a vision. He seemed like he was covered with a white wool thin blanket. So he was wrapped in a white blanket, you know, and basically he was coming out with this blanket. And he came out of the dirt. He went to a 2-bedroom apartment me and my stepfather shared. Me and my stepfather don't share an apartment, you know, especially a 2-bedroom. So I don't know what that means. So that's where he was going, you know, and so he was going to be staying with us. I remember I went and fetched his holy book, which was a semi-large, old-looking black book. So if I can do the measurements of the book, I would say it was maybe 14 to 16 inches by 12 inch. Is a big black book with the first page and the cover tore off, but still there with the book, and I placed them on top of the book in the order. I remember I was going to bring him his book, and I remembered it feeling really holy at that moment he rose out of the grave. I was like, wow, the prophet came out of the grave. And I didn't see his face, but an image of him was in my mind. And then for some reason, I'm supposed to describe him. He was kind of like a solid brown color, not too light or too dark. And this is how I seen him in my dream. But he was evenly complected. I mean, the complexion was a smooth color. His hair evenly shaved over his head. And he stood around 6 feet. So I was at a distance, but 6 feet or more or less was in my head, you know. And I was sure around 6 feet, you know. And he seemed to be waiting at my apartment for me to bring him his book. I remember calling my mother on the phone, who was unaware. It was some more part of the dream, and at the beginning or something like that I cannot remember at all, but this is the part that I remember. So I remember calling my mother on the phone, who was unaware he was back, and it don't want me to say returned. It just wanted me to say back. Just say he was back, you know. I called and told her, was she coming over right now to meet this prophet, or wait till tomorrow? She said she was going to get some sleep and then come see him the next day. And I knew why, because she didn't have her act all the way together at that moment, and she didn't want to meet him that way. And then I started thinking, I don't know if my act is acceptable to him either. And something told me strongly he would be able to see through me, but I had to see him anyways, and I was willing to do and accept anything he had told me. So if he said, stop doing this, start doing this, I would just do it. Then I woke up. The thing that stood out is that he was literally back and came out of the grave. Then something told me when I woke up to recheck the 3 moons again, and this is what I found.
It was made known to me that something was about to happen, and the only way I could escape from being here in a sense, when it all goes down, was I had to listen to what this guy was telling me so I could escape, because he was the only one who knew how to escape. And as the dream ended, I was waking up out of my sleep. As I began to open my eyes, or I wasn't fully awake, but I could feel myself being pulled out of the dream, I clearly heard the word sepulture on the 21st.
So just like I was saying in my dream that I was ready to be obedient to whatever this prophet said, and you know, that he came out of the grave. I saw him rise up out of the ground. She also stated sepulture on the 21st, which means grave on the 21st. And we know we got 3 moons coming, and 2 of those moons is coming on the 21st. One is January the 21st, and the other is March the 21st. I'm thinking March the 21st. Let's move on to the next one.
There was a vision that was a dream that was brought up by someone on Bob Barber's channel, End Time Dreams and Visions, and they had a dream of 2 moons, and then as soon as the 3rd moon showed up, then they were sent up in the rapture. So, and I thought this was very curious because at the end of 2016 we have 3 supermoons. You know, we have these 3 supermoons in a row, and this person on Bob Barber's channel had a dream of 2, looking at 2 moons next to each other, and then as soon as the 3rd moon showed up, then they were gone in the rapture.
I had a dream that I saw a calendar, and it went from the numbers 1 to 48, and it had the number 3. It only went up to 3 different things, like 3 names. All right, and it was cloudy out, and then all of a sudden I saw the tiniest sliver of the moon, okay, and it glowed orangish, and then I saw the alignment of the planet. This is what I've been led. 1948 is when the assembly, Jerusalem, became a capital. Well, the 3, okay, the 48 represents the 1948. The 3 represents moons. And then the alignments of the planets. And the woman of Revelation 12 was in the sky. And they, no one was paying attention. And so I saw 3 moons, and they were all different shapes and colors. And I was like, I don't understand this. Well, get this. March is the number 3, is the number 3, is the number 3.
And one of the group looked up, and his jaw dropped. Okay, you know, he's looked up like he's, you know, his jaw dropped. So, so then I looked up and see what he was looking at, and then I saw the moon. The moon turned bright orange red. It was bright red orange, you know, not like the sun. It was actual orange, bright orange. Okay. For the second time, it turned red. All of a sudden, small meteors or fireballs of some sort started coming down. People were running.
So what we have to look at here is that on the 2nd super moon, our meteor is going to be falling to the earth, which means we get taken out on the next super moon, which is in March.
So these things are falling to earth. They're about the size of maybe a football or something. And then there are hundreds of them. They're just, you see them streaking down. They're hitting. So I dive into like a sewer, like a waterway, manhole, sewer grate.
We looked up in the daytime sky, and we saw a big full moon. But then underneath the moon, there were 3 small moons. So here's a picture. Well, I can't really see it, but anyway, it was like that. So you see the size of the regular moon, and then there were 3 small moons horizontally placed underneath the big moon. And the moment that we saw this in the sky, we knew that this was a sign from the Lord, and me and my daughter and the person we were with just dropped instantly to our knees on the pavement, and we just started praying to God. We were praising Him, and we were repenting.
She put first she saw a large moon. We had a large moon at the beginning of the month, and then she saw 3 moons, which represents those 3 moons that is coming in January, February, and March. And basically, once she saw the sign of the 3 moons in the dream, they plopped to their knees and start repenting.
The dream was brief. Basically, it was as if I was looking down at a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, I saw 3 boxes lined up in 1 row. In the first box was the number 6. And also in that box was like a picture of many people, just a whole bunch of people. And then in the box next to it, the box in the middle, was the number 45. And then in the box next to that was the number 9. Underneath that box those boxes were yet a second row of boxes. And this time there were only 2 boxes, one on the left and one on the right. The box on the left had the number 6, and it also had people in that box. I forgot to mention the box up top that had the 9 also had people. And then on the second row, the box with the 9 also had people. I perceived in the dream that these boxes represented political parties that were opposing, or political ideologies that were in opposition to one another. I felt that the 6 and the 9 were in opposition. After that, I saw another box, or on the third row, I saw yet 2 more boxes. Each one of these boxes had the number. The first box on the left had the number 6, and it had people in that box, a number of people in that box. And the box on the right, which had the number 9, also had people. This time I perceived that the people in the boxes were still conflicting, but it was now no longer a political based, but faith-based conflict. The thing I noticed was, and I'm going to show you here if you haven't already seen it, was that once they were lined up, you see 666. And you know that 666 is the number of a man, is the man of perdition. Okay? So you have the man of perdition. Also, I noticed that the 6 were on the left-hand side, and we know that the Lord Messiah will separate the sheep from the goat, and the goats go to the left, and then the sheep go to the right. It dealt with the equinoxes. It dealt with the equinoxes. It dealt with the equinoxes.
So I didn't get to play this whole video, but you heard what she said. Okay, it's 3 boxes, and then the box is 6, 45, and 9. And then there's 2 boxes underneath, which is 6 and 9, and then 2 boxes underneath that one, which was 6 and 9. Okay, when you got to the second box, the 45 was missing, and she believed it was Donald Trump that was missing. But it was conflict on the second moon, which is in February, and he had conflict, which was meteorites falling down on the second moon as well. Okay, so now, did you know the equinox fall on the third moon in March? So basically, there it is again, pointing to something happening in March. And if you heard what she said the last box, which is the last moon, was spiritual, and the first boxes were political.
And when they do this, then there is this fire behind the larger moon and more red smoke around the smaller moons. And I'm like, what is about to happen? So as I'm watching this, and I look over to the upper left of the moon, and I'm really straining my eyes to see, and I kind of get a little more, and it kind of becomes more vivid as I strain my eyes to see. It's like I'm given like extra vision, and it looks like they could be spaceships or it could be angels. I really get the feeling though that it is angels, and they're already in place and suspended in place, ready to descend upon earth for their saints. And so as I'm watching and I'm seeing this fire is like blazing hot behind the largest moon, and the red smoke just keeps on coming out from these moons. And as the sky starts to get red, and I'm looking at these images up here in the upper left corner of this moon, I'm like really feeling like the end of the world is here. It's here, and it's any moment.
So in this illustration, we see that there are 3 moons again, and then the top last moon has the angels on the left of it coming. And she's really feeling like it's the rapture. But if you look at the illustration, you got the 2 moons in front, and then you got the last moon, which to me represents March again. And then you have the angels by the last moon. They wasn't by the first or the second, but they by the last. And the fiery moon is behind the moon on the last one. So I don't know. There are no coincidences. And basically, the dream about the dead prophet rising out of the ground, and it made me believe that happened today. Like this prophet came up today, and so I want to go into denial a little bit about that, and then say, okay, it's just a dream. But something is telling me don't. Just stay straight with that, and believe that something is taking place today. So you guys tell me what y'all believe in the comments. This is Wrap the News.